Children of Terra. For 3,000 years, Earth had known peace. After the Great Wars and the long, slow healing of humanity's fractured soul, the Terran Concordat rose, not through conquest, but through unity. Humanity, once a force of relentless expansion and brutal ambition, had become the galaxy's quiet titan. We explored without dominating, offered aid without strings, and served as mediators in disputes older than our own stars. Peace was not weakness. It was a choice, a burden, and we bore it well, until the children vanished. Lyra Prime was a modest outpost near the Orion Expanse, a science colony of 30,000, mostly families and researchers. It was known for its quiet beauty, frost-ringed forests, aurora skies, low-gravity fields where children played like birds. The emergency alert came at 2:37 Universal Time Coordinated. Entire generations gone. Every child under the age of 12 missing. Instantaneously. No alarms tripped. No signs of conflict. Just empty beds, empty homes, empty silence. When the data feeds arrived at Earth's central coordinating network, there was disbelief. Then horror. Then fury. For a brief moment, the weight of 3 millennia cracked. We didn't act immediately. We gathered. We verified. The High Council convened in Geneva Arcology under the pale glow of Sol. The facts were grim. 32,411 children gone. All at once. No demands. No ransom. Nothing but one fragment of intercepted transmission from the fringe of Zarnathi space. It was enough. Subject transfer complete. Neural integrity stable. Begin phase extraction. The voice was Zarnathi, one of the many dominions of the old Galactic Empire. Their civilization had been in slow decline for centuries, rotting behind false grandeur and decadent rituals. They still held seats in the Galactic Senate, but everyone knew the real power had shifted long ago. But this was madness, an abomination not seen since the dark genomic age. Experiments on children. Sentience used as raw data for psychic warfare research. The council chambers fell silent. Then, for the first time in 3,000 years, Earth's speaker rose and used the words written into the oldest protocols of the Terran Concordat. Activate the Aegis Protocol. The meaning was clear. No more peace. Across the solar system, a shift began. Silent orbital stations blinked awake. AI tacticians, banned since the peace accords, were reauthorized. Deep vaults on Mars and Europa released the dormant code of the Legionnaire Initiative, Earth's ancient defense force. The last warriors of humanity's forgotten wars stirred in cryogenic chambers, pulled from sleep with a single directive: retrieve the children. In less than 24 hours, the Terran Concordat transitioned from passive observer to active combatant. Messages flooded in from across the galaxy. Please, warnings, threats. Most of the known races had forgotten what war with humanity meant. A few still remembered. One statement circulated through diplomatic channels: origin unknown. You stole from wolves who chose to tend gardens. You thought they forgot their fangs. Admiral Kira Thorne stood alone in the cold launch chamber beneath Luna Command. The darkness hummed with energy. She stared at the old insignia on the bulkhead, 2 hands, one open in peace, one clenched in readiness. She was the granddaughter of Eric's Thorne, the last general of the Unity Wars. She had studied peace, believed in it, but tonight, she put on the armor of war. The first expeditionary fleet, long mothballed in the asteroid rings, was preparing for launch. Their destination, the edge of Zarnathi space. No demands, no negotiations. The mission was simple: find the children, send a message. As the fleet moved silently into the black, Earth watched. Billions held their breath. Across colonies, embassies, and even in Senate chambers, a single phrase began to echo, ancient and sharp. Humanity has awakened. And in that awakening, the galaxy remembered a truth long buried. We're peaceful by choice, not by nature. Legion of the Forgotten War. War is not declared in shouts. It's whispered in the sound of ancient machines waking up. The first expeditionary fleet launched with silence and precision. No grand speeches, no holostream ceremonies. Just old hulls creaking back to life, their AI cores humming with purpose not felt in 3 millennia. They were the last of their kind, vessels built not for conquest, but for punishment. Sleek, quiet, deadly. At their heart, the Legionnaires. Born of gene forges and old Earth discipline, the Legionnaires were more than soldiers. They were a pact between power and control, wrath and wisdom. Each was a living weapon, trained not only in war, but in restraint. The peace accords hadn't disbanded them, just put them to sleep, entombed in cryostasis beneath the moons of Saturn, waiting for a moment like this. Now they stood tall again. Admiral Kira Thorne surveyed them from the command deck of TCS Vindicator, the lead dreadnought. Her voice cut across channels with clarity and calm. We do not go for revenge. We go for justice. We retrieve our children. We remind the galaxy. Earth is not dead. Earth remembers. The fleet dropped from slipspace at the edge of the Darvek expanse, a tangled region of derelict stars and old Empire installations. Their target, Darvek Station, a remote Zarnathi research facility with no declared purpose, no traffic logs, and far too many energy signatures for a mining hub. No warning, no diplomacy. The strike took less than 19 minutes. Boarding pods slammed into the station's outer hull like thunderclaps. Legionnaires moved like wraiths, disabling power grids, disabling defenders with precision weapons that burned without sound. The Zarnathi fought back, but not well. They weren't warriors. They were scientists, guards, bureaucrats. Within moments, control of the station shifted. The Terran flag was raised above the core. Kira stepped into the primary research chamber with a detachment of Legionnaires. What they found wasn't a lab. It was a tomb. Rows of stasis pods lined the walls. Inside, children, not just human. Dozens of species, some known, some never seen. Wired into neural lattices, faces locked in twisted half-screams. Biosignatures were stable. Brains were not. She moved to the human section. Her hand trembled. The readings were clear. Severe psychic overexposure, neural degradation, some irreversible. Out of 34 human children recovered, only 11 were coherent. One boy opened his eyes. "Are you Earth?" he asked, voice cracking, eyes wide with horror. "We are," Kira said, kneeling. His reply chilled the room. "They're making more." The intel was worse than feared. The Zarnathi weren't just experimenting. They were scaling up. The psychic data harvested from children was being used to create synthetic empaths, bred for warfare, bioweapons with instinctual terror triggers. The children were just a fuel source, a resource. Kira ordered the full upload of station archives. Then she triggered the secondary command, Scorch Protocol. Darvek Station was sterilized, its knowledge extracted, its crimes erased. The dead were honored with silence. The living were brought home. When the fleet returned to Terran space, they didn't land in celebration. They landed in mourning. The children were received at Lyra's medical corps. Some ran to their parents. Some stared blankly. Some screamed when touched. Others had forgotten language entirely. The 11 recovered humans were sent to Earth's psionic rehabilitation dome. But of those 11, only 5 would ever speak again. The footage of Darvek was shown to the High Council. There was no debate, no opposition. The full data from the archives revealed the funding trail. The Zarnathi operation had backing from silent partners, arms of the old Empire, black-budget contractors, even private syndicates operating in Senate-controlled space. The abductions weren't isolated. They were part of something systemic. Earth made its decision that day. No more silence. No more restraint. They began the Warpath Doctrine, a series of preemptive strikes designed to cut the head off every snake involved. The Second and Third Fleets were mobilized. The Peace Fleet, once ceremonial, was armed and divided into rapid response wings. Humanity would no longer ask for permission to defend its own. And throughout the galaxy, a new fear began to spread, not of Terran invasion, but Terran judgment. A whisper passed through the void, carried on encrypted channels and desperate prayers. The Legion walks again. Peace was the lie. The galaxy believed Earth had become soft. Millennia of diplomacy, scientific aid, and non-aggression painted humanity as a matured species, wise, restrained, evolved. But beneath that civility lay memory, not just of war, but of what humanity had once been when provoked. Darvek Station was only the beginning. From the data recovered, Terran intelligence uncovered dozens of facilities spread across old Empire space. Some active, some still under construction, others hidden inside failing stars, mining colonies, and even abandoned Senate outposts. The operation was vast, coordinated, and profitable. The truth spread like wildfire. The Zarnathi weren't acting alone. Black market biotech guilds, corrupt senators, and powerful noble houses had quietly funded the abduction and experimentation of children. Not just human, but dozens of other species. Entire generations reduced to data sets. When Earth released the footage, what had been done to the children at Darvek, broadcasts halted, empires shuddered, worlds rioted. Some species broke away from the Senate overnight, choosing neutrality over complicity. And Earth gave the galaxy a choice. Return every stolen child. Cease all biological exploitation of sentient species. Extradite those responsible for trial under the Concordat Accords, or face extinction. The Zarnathi Emperor responded with a laugh. He appeared on a galaxy-wide broadcast seated on a throne of petrified bone, flanked by enslaved Psi beasts, and mocked the ultimatum. Domesticated apes don't dictate terms to gods, he said, venom lacing his tongue. Let them come. We'll teach them fear again. He would regret those words. The second and third Terran fleets moved within the week. They didn't conquer territory, they deleted it. In precision strikes, they disabled key systems, faster-than-light relays, energy siphons, drone factories, and communications nodes. Every strike was surgical. No civilian casualties, but entire sectors were silenced. Terran war doctrine hadn't been idle during peace. It had evolved. While the Senate argued, Earth acted. Then came Kaltharaz. Located deep in Zarnathi sovereign space, Kaltharaz was disguised as a biological waste disposal station. In reality, it was the central processing facility for abducted children across 2 quadrants. A prison, a lab, and a factory. Intelligence was clear. Over 200,000 children, held in suspended animation, neural testing chambers, and something worse. Live psychic fusion grids. Living children were being chained together in artificial mind networks, forced to share thoughts, emotions, even pain, for the sake of building weapons that could terrify entire armies into surrender. Admiral Thorne led the assault herself. The battle lasted 51 minutes. Zarnathi forces defended Kaltharaz with desperation. They knew what Earth would do if the truth got out, but they underestimated just how much restraint Terran forces had been holding back. The Legionnaires moved through the facility like divine wrath. Gravity turned against the defenders. Plasma blades cut without hesitation. Terran AI systems took control of defense networks, turning turrets inward. Even the walls rebelled. By the time Kira reached the core chamber, the station was falling apart around her. She stepped into a room filled with children wired into machines like batteries. Some unconscious, some screaming, some long since broken. She found her nephew in the third wing. Tomas. He'd been 6 when taken. Now he looked older. Pale. Thin. But alive. He didn't speak at first. Just stared at her, blinking. Then finally, "You came." Tears broke her composure. "Of course we did." His hand gripped hers tightly. "They're not done. This isn't all of it. There are others. And some help them." From inside, Kira stared into the boy's eyes and saw something else. Certainty. A memory no child should have. Kaltharaz was destroyed. After the children were evacuated, the facility was imploded with a singularity warhead, leaving nothing but a dark scar in the void. The images from the rescue were broadcast across the galaxy. This time, there were no skeptics, no neutral voices. The crimes were undeniable. The Terran Council issued a new mandate. The Warpath Doctrine was now permanent. Any empire, species, or entity participating in sentient exploitation would be hunted down. And Earth made its final declaration to the galaxy. Peace was never a gift. It was a decision, a mercy. But mercy has its limits. The Senate called an emergency session. Hundreds of empires, once silent, now begged for Earth's protection. Old enemies turned to allies. Neutral systems swore fealty to the Concordat, not from fear, but from hope. Humanity wasn't just back. Humanity had remembered. The trials were held in the same chamber where the peace accords had been signed 3,000 years ago. It was no accident. The Terran Council insisted. Justice, they said, must echo through the same halls where peace had once been promised. The Zarnathi leaders were brought in one by one, chained not by iron, but by neural inhibitors, stripped of their rank, cloaks, and titles. No longer scientists, nobles, or emperors, just criminals. The galaxy watched. Admiral Kira Thorne stood at the edge of the gallery, silent as judgment was passed. Her armor bore the scars of Kaltharas. At her side, Tomas sat, quiet, eyes haunted but focused. He refused to speak publicly, but his testimony, recorded in private, had already shattered dozens of defenses. The court heard it. So did billions across the stars. Not just human children, not just one species. Hundreds of thousands taken, mutilated, repurposed. A galactic crime carried out in silence while the Senate looked away. The verdicts were unanimous. Guilty. Every last one. Sentences were not executions by firing line or vacuum. Earth had learned. Instead, each perpetrator was handed to a delegation of victim species. Some were sent to isolation facilities on desolate moons. Others, particularly those who had engineered the child neural mesh networks, were handed over to the children's Accord tribunals. Few would ever see daylight again. But justice was only the beginning. The Terran Concordat issued a new set of interstellar laws, the Children's Accord. Any form of experimentation on sentience, of any age or development, was now a universal crime. Enforcement would not fall to the Senate, but to a newly formed organization, the Interstellar Protection Corps, led by none other than Kira Thorne. She refused a seat on the High Council. "I'm not a politician," she said. "I'm not here to negotiate peace. I'm here to make sure it's never broken again." The IPC became something the galaxy hadn't seen since the rise of the Concordat. A fleet that existed not to conquer or to threaten, but to guard. Multi-species, autonomous, and with the full backing of Terran technology, intelligence, and resolve. For the first time in galactic history, war would not be needed to prevent evil. Vigilance would. But humanity's image had changed. No longer just scholars, diplomats, and peacebringers. The myth of Terran gentleness had shattered. In its place, something older returned, an image the galaxy once feared and respected, the human guardian, the wrathful protector. The message was clear. We are peaceful until you take from us. Tomas returned home to Lyra Prime. His body would heal in time. His mind, perhaps never fully. But when a new school dome opened, he was the first to walk through its doors. Around him were children from across the stars, rescued, reborn, and rebuilding. And above the dome's entrance, carved into white Terran stone, were 12 words. Peace is not given. It is guarded, and never taken for granted. In time, new alliances formed. Old systems restructured. Empires bowed, not in fear, but in understanding. Earth had reminded them all of what it truly was. Not a conqueror, not a tyrant, but a force that protected those who could not protect themselves. And far beyond the reach of broadcasts and politics, deep in space, old Legionnaire ships drifted in formation, silent, watchful, no longer sleeping, no longer forgotten. Kira stood once more on the deck of TCS Vindicator, now a flagship of the IPC. Tomas had grown taller, stronger. He stood beside her, watching the stars stretch before them. "You think we'll ever need to fight again?" he asked. Kira looked out at the void. Thought for a long time. "Maybe," she said, "but next time we won't wait. And they'll know better." She turned, walking toward the command deck. Behind her, the stars shimmered, endless, untamed, and no longer unguarded. Final broadcast from Earth to the galaxy. Asterisk. We were silent because we believed peace could endure. We were still because we hoped you'd change. But now you've seen what we are when we remember. We are humanity. We guard. We endure. We remember now. And so will you.